And welcome back, everyone. We are live once again at NLC Aurora Open Round 16, Day 2, where we have 4 games in front of us, at least 4 games or 2 cities with how many games. My name is Alexandre Maya. I will be your host for the day, and I have the pleasure to finally be working with Veteran and Don Jake. Welcome, everybody. But, Veteran, first time on NLC broadcast with me. Tell me a little bit
Oh
about
yeah.
yourself.
Oh well, I'm very, very excited to be here. We've got
Just shut
some
up. Just
incredible.
be quiet. No one cares. We all know the real spectacle today, and that is me, the innumerable man of mystery, the CEO of Ruddy Esports, the man, the myth, the legend. I've come from the trenches, entrenched in the Ouroboros of motion within the lower scales of the divisions. Ruddy Esports powering through for their David versus Goliath matchup in a few days. Me, myself, the man of many, many words, all the synonyms, all the antonyms here today, the first man to get Challenger from the International Space Station. They're all here for me, baby.
Lovely to hear from you, Veteran. That was a lovely introduction.
Thank you, thank you, thank
Can we
you.
do
I
my
do it on
intro
the
now?
night.
Can we do my intro now?
Oh, your intro. Oh, please enlighten me.
Well, you know, I'm obviously very excited to be here back again. I mean, the last time we were working
No,
together,
no, no, no,
I
no,
was
no,
so
no, no,
close,
no,
so
no,
close I
no,
could
no,
touch
no,
you.
no, 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 no. It's all about me, the man, the myth, the legend, the man who got 7 out of 7 EU Masters playoff predictions is here, is correct, is here to tell you who will win the most prestigious cup in the European regional leagues, the Aurora Open. You're here, it's me, it's Don Jake, it's even Archram looking very swagger here. All right, it's all coming down tonight.
Well, if you know all the scores, if you know the script, might as well show everybody the bracket so you can tell us a little bit about that. We already had 2 cities to start this off. GDXL took down Verdant with 2-0. Nuriki did the same for Domino. And today it's all about X7 Esports versus Raid Gaming. And on the other side of the bracket, we'll take on Dusty versus Idra's Esports. So while we're looking into the bracket, before we move on, I would like to make an interesting game with you guys. I would like to ask you to give me your most anticipated matchup of these first round 16, okay? I'm going to do my bit. Somehow that was human. We don't care about that right now. But hear me out. I'm going to pick Natives versus Team Singularity. And why is that? Team Singularity were struggling throughout the entire split, but at the end of it, they were capable of actually scoring a few wins. Everybody was surprised, but out of a sudden, Natives come in during promotions and they just demolish Singularity 3-1. After that, Natives have been showing an amazing macro synergy in trigger time. And when I say this, is because whenever someone pulls the trigger to go in, the entire team follows it instantly. This is the perfect synergy coming in from Natives. But also, this is the perfect opportunity for Team Singularity to punch back. In my mind, this will either be revenge from Singularity, that they just had a bad day on relegations, or Natives cementing their entire path, showing everyone that they are a team worthy of Division 1. To me, this is the match I'm looking for the most, Natives versus Team Singularity, round 16. But now I want to ask Don Jake, what is your favorite matchup? I don't
I
even know
think
what
it
I'm
would be
asking, but yeah.
I think it would be remiss of me to choose anything but the absolute David versus Goliath Titanic War of the Worlds matchup in Astralis Talent versus Ruddy Esports. There's nothing talented about them. I don't know why they're called that. You remember the first time I did a little diss track on them, I told them you should rename to Legs because you're always at the bottom of the table. It continues to be the case. They stumbled in playoffs. They're going to stumble in this playoffs as well. Ruddy are coming in. We're hungry. The young guns are gunning at the moment. We're gunning for the trophy at the moment. And I just don't think that a team like Astralis have got the Cajones, the Stones. I don't think they've got the stamina to keep up with players that we've got at the moment. We've got Latch in the AD carry position. This guy has more energy than a solar panel in Dubai. He's unable. Chris Berg does not have the ability to keep up with him.
I found it lovely because you did the rep. Obviously, Don Jake, everybody knows about the rep, and you talked about Astralis and the legs and all that. If you lose, is the rep done? Is it a fluke?
Let me just say, there's another rap coming in. There's another diss track that's getting filmed tomorrow, actually, in a supermarket car park near my house. We will be filming that. The good thing about Astralis is you can record as much diss tracks as you want against them. It doesn't matter if we lose because they won't respond because they don't like doing content. So it's fine, actually.
You know, life is a lot of things, and Don Jake is one of them. Okay, I'm going to pass it over to you, veteran. Bring some some order to this one. What is your match for round 16?
I got no hate for the org I'm about to bring up. All right, it's Bifrost. All right, it's the solo lane legends. Right, it's Shikari, it's Fury, and all right, we have the man, the myth, the incoming Storm himself, Faith. All right, tearing up the solo queue ladder. Man was perpetually top 5 all year, and we're gonna see his debut here. We're gonna see how he stands up against the jungle talent in the NLC. And you know what? I think he's going to absolutely tear through all of them. This guy can do farming junglers. This guy can do ganking junglers. He can do it all. All right. He's a beast. I'm really excited to see how he performs because that's what this tournament's about. All right. We give new people the chance to perform. We give new people the chance to feel that they deserve to be up here with the best. All right. So whereas eyes are going to be on Shikari Fury, I want to see my man Faith there in the jungle showing everyone what he's got.
And it seems like it's a completely new team. Obviously, new players and all that, but the fact that they are capable of finally ending games before 40 minutes, it shows Bifrost is a new team, no, veteran? I saw that smile, so you feel the same, don't you?
The story of that team was for like the entire year, we're going to play out our lanes. It's going to be very difficult for the enemy to do something to us. And then, okay, it's quite difficult for us to do anything to them for the next 30 minutes or so, right? But I think, yeah, with Faith here, you know, you have some of that proactivity you need. This guy can pick an engaged champ and just immediately make something happen, or he'll pick one of his carry champs and he will make that name or that kind of archetype of jungler matter in mid-late game stages, right? He is what they've needed this whole time, right? If you think Bifrost can't close out the game, just have faith is what we're learning.
Well, it's a George Michael approach, isn't it? You've got to have faith at the end of the day. If you had Diamond before.
I mean, if you don't have it, why are you even here? You know, why are you even
Exactly.
Touche. Let's move on with the next topic. The next topic, which is going to be about the games of today. We're going to start with the second one, the second series of the day, which will be Dusty versus Hydras. And we want to do this because as soon as we toss it to the first one, I want everybody's minds to be fresh. So that's why we're tackling the second one, and later on the show we'll talk about yet again. So where should we focus when we're looking to Dusty versus Hydras? I want to ask you this one, veteran, because we were talking about this matchup and you had a lot to say. So before we look into specific lanes, what is the thing that you need to highlight in this specific matchup?
Okay, Dusty. Right, this is a team that they don't like to do things easy, right? They like to go in hard and fast. So it's not just about, all right, let's play for our beast carry then Boxney, right? They also have beast carry and Kerberos on the top side, and you got Backland belting out these assassins everywhere on the map with his LeBlanc, right? These guys play 3 lanes. They play a very wide map state from start to the end, and they can pressure anywhere. But meanwhile, as you can see on your screen right now, from Hydras, you have these very tight, very team fight wombo combo based, simple compositions to execute. We had an interview with Imperials on the group stage actually over at eUniverse, and he told us, right, that yes, this is purposeful. They like to pick very heavy team fight composition. You can see, right, the Veigar, the Misfortune, the Amumu, how well that combos. The Zoe, the Ashe, the Karma, how well that combos. One of them lands it, everyone lands it, and you got the Malphite there to follow up, right? You can see on the very right one, it's a classic Orianna wombo combo, very heavy, all in, right? But meanwhile, you got the Jax Fiora, they can do whatever they want on the top side. You got Linkus on champions that have a really strong early mid-game spikes. Look at Backland's aggressive champ pool, and he can also do the Victor to apply pressure and enable his lanes if he needs to. And meanwhile, on the bot lane, yes, you've got your Misfortune Leona combo, but you got your Aphelios, you got your Varus, you've got your very heavy priority lanes on the bot side. There's a lot of aggression coming out from the individual lanes of Dusty, whereas Hydras, they're a team that like to form up as a 5-man and beat you that way. The question is, will Dusty let them do that?
It's a good one. And Don Jake, now we should look into the jungle because I think this is quite important. These junglers may be able to solidify or make the entire match go south. Look at this. When you look at Linkus, this is a prodigy in the making. Not only because of his KDA, but the way he approaches in the enemy jungle, no?
Well, 100%. I mean, you talk about a player like Linkas. I know, having spoken to Zen about him, I did like quite basically in preparation for. You'll remember when we had the XL Dusty series. I went out of my way to kind of go and ask Zen a little bit about some of his players, get more of an understanding about them. Quite a lot of the time, you describe players with these quite abstract terms, and it can get quite annoying. I know that's something me and Veteran talk about. You talk about a player that has tempo, he's high fidelity, he's whatnot. It's very simple what Zen described to me, as Linkas said. He said one thing and one thing only. This guy's LEC future prospect. I think this guy communicates around the map in a very cerebral way. I think this he had an incredible performance in that summer split. For me, probably the MVP of the split. I think you see so much of the map play that they have in terms of setting up plays around respawn camp timers for enemy. So much of that comes from him. You feel as if, without having heard the comms, you assume just by the map movement, he's always the one precipitating that mediated action. And for me, like you say, a future prospect, I would not be surprised if Dusty cannot hold on to this young talent for too much longer.
And in all fair and honesty, like the reality is Dusty is a superstar team. Even though they were the team of rejects when they started the summer split, the bench players, they're now the superstar team. It's not even X7 anymore. It's all about Dusty and the names they were able to make during the NLC run summer split, which leads us into the bot lane, the Voxne and Imperial. The Invoxne to me is not only a hype train, but look at the damage he provides. Veteran, is this even legal?
I mean, them Voxne, okay, like this man is a special talent when it comes to the NLC, right? He's actually won 100% of the splits that he has played at the NLC. When he qualified initially with Tricked Esports, he won the finals against Bean, a guy who would go on to literally beat Gala at the World Championships in that same year, in the finals in a reverse sweep. To have a rookie come in and have the confidence to reverse sweep such a big August Fnatic with such a big player as Bean immediately in his first split, it's incredible. And like you said, he came in summer in like the quote-unquote reject team, did it again against X7, a very well-funded, very well-hyped organization that had just come off of being potential favorites in the last spring EU Masters, right? He reverse swept them again. This man is the key for Dusty and always has been, and you can see the stats there, right? Like, this guy is incredibly confident. I mean, and why not? You want to know what he just came out from? He just took LDLC, the first seed of the LFL, to 5 games at EU Masters against Exakick, another very, very hyped AD carry. The man knows no fear, right? The man knows absolutely no fear. He cannot be broken. He's very pivotal for them. He plays to win in laning phase, and he plays to win overall throughout the entire stages of the game. And the stats show he's very, very successful at it, getting almost a 10 CS per minute in professional play. That's not something to be laughed at. He's almost doubling Imperial stats all the way through. But, you know, we did talk about with Hydras, they look to go online later on in the game, right? But then Voxne looks to apply pressure from minute 1. That's how he's gotten so far. That's why he can win these marathons in the long term that are best of series. So the question is, can Imperial weather that storm until his team gets together? Because it's gonna take an entire team to take out a force like them Voxne.
So if I may, the way we're putting this on for everybody is that Dusty is Dusty. So Idris has a big task ahead of them, which leads me to this question. Don, Jake, and Veteran, I'm going to start with you, Don. Is there a world where Idris are capable of bringing down Dusty? And if there's a world, how can he do it?
I think if it's a world, it's got to be one that it's got to be one of those, it's got to be, you know how they say sort of that, you know, obviously just if we look into science, gravity is different on the moon, gravity is different on Mars. I think they've got to go somewhere where the weight isn't exactly going to be inordinating them to kind of be crushed under the great spiritual pressure that this team can put out against them. They're in a completely underdog position. I think they've got rather the most unlucky draw they probably could have gotten as a team coming second. You're coming against the NLC champions. But I think in some ways they do have the benefit of, you know, Dusty probably won't be looking at them as a serious competitor. They probably won't have studied them too closely. Maybe there's a bit of, you know, a bit of spice they can pull out in the draft. Kind of, I feel like the best of 3 format as well. You can come out in the first game, come swinging, catch them while they're dazed, and go for a quick 2-0. I think it can't really be suggested enough that this is an insurmountable task for them, but with the way they played so far, I don't think it's outside of the realms of possibility. It's just rather unlikely.
And in reality, if they do end up taking out Dusty, they become the favorites because they took down the most powerful team. So out of a sudden, the tables are flipped, which means that we need to flip into the first series of the day, which is the second topic for us, X7 versus Raid. We're talking about Spring Split champions versus Rate Gaming, a Division 2 team. And I like the way you're dressing today, by the way, Don Jake. I have to give you props, even though you have the glasses, but we'll move on from this one. We need to talk about X7 to begin with, because everybody looks into X7, they're like, oh, it's Viking, it's Kasing, it's Chasey, it's nuts. We need to show you who's X7 right now, because Viking is still there. But Veteran, this is a different team.
It's a different team, but they actually have players on there that was still technically a part of the lineup. Slowq, for example, was actually the mid substitute for Temp. These aren't just players that X7 have thrown in there that they don't necessarily believe in. I believe what we're looking at here is a potential preview for X7 Spring 2023. Definitely a lot of players said that they could be looking to keep, and particularly I'm looking at the AD carrier mid lane for that. But obviously you still have Viking here. You have that veteran presence. Viking, a player very valuable to them that they brought in the middle of summer and precipitated a turnaround for X7 results in the standings and put them one game away from winning the entirety of NLC. So I think whereas there are a lot of new names, it's definitely not something to just be glazed over.
And they're still first place on their own group, so it's a force to be reckoned with.
For
Which
sure.
brings me to the way they drafted as well, but also the way Rate drafted as well. Rate is a known team on Division 2. They made a lot of noise not only in Spring Split but in Summer Split as well. So I do believe we have some different drafts coming in from this team, if we can put it up there. And look at the difference. It seems
Oh
like
yeah.
it's really hard to predict this team. I'll let you both talk about this. Don, do you want to start this one?
Yeah, so 100%. I mean, this is a team for me, their identity, it was kind of similar in Summer Split as well, but especially now with the kind of slight adjustments they've made to their line. This is a team that loves to play for your first Herald. And I think that's really reflected in a lot of their drafts. As you can see, a lot of the champions they're picking in the bot lane, excluding the third one, you'll see a lot of these MF, Varus picks, also stuff like Sivir. I know that Sin likes to put out. And the reason for this is they love to get priority in these lanes, roam up, play for the first Herald. And that's one of the benefits they have over some of these other Division 2 teams. They're looking towards some of these macro concepts, which is kind of, you see the difference between Div 2 and Div 1 sometimes is the devil is in the details sometimes, and the devil is what really damns you to a lot of early disadvantages. They're a team that actually surprisingly has a good round of it when it comes to that. I know that this is something that Veteran will talk about, but Julbu is a player, having spoken to Sin earlier in the day, he said he invades almost as a natural impulse. It's his natural impulse to be aggressive, up in the face of the enemy jungle. And that's sort of a style of play that they as a unit kind of had to acquiesce to and kind of mold towards. And that's kind of affected the way they play. So you'll see a lot of their play and where they draft is getting matchups that get priority, win the early game, and then they transition that into these early objectives.
Veteran, do you want to talk about this one as well? Because it seems like Rate is picking something different, and Don Jake tackled it. So before we have the interview, I had some information coming on my ears, but I couldn't quite get it. So if possible, oh, so
Oh.
we do have an invade ready for you, Veteran, to guide us through this
Oh
one. So if
yes.
possible, take it
I mean,
away.
Don Jake's absolutely right, right? My man Julbu here, this guy invades on almost every champion. You saw a big variety of them, right? You had Poppy, a bit more of like a bridge champion. You had Hecarim, who's a bit more of a ganking champion. You have Graves, who is much more of a farming champion, but the thing that's consistent across all of them is that Julbu sees these opportunities, sees these small timing windows. He didn't even have full mid priority there to go for these invades, and he sees them on every single champion because this guy is playing jungle, and that's actually quite rare at that level. That's something you see more experienced players doing. I describe Linkus that way, and Linkus is that kind of a talent where we're saying we could see this guy in LEC in the future, but I can already say Julbu's that way, even though he's not so necessarily playing at such a high level. And that's going to be something that Viking Anton's going to need to watch out for. He's been coasting this tournament so far. We all remember his singed game where he blue buffed immediately in towards a bot side gank on one camp. He does that against Julbu. He loses his old top side, right? So you actually have to pay efficient attention to your jungle, or Julbu's going to punish you for it. He cross maps, he invades with priorities, he understands the real opportunities that exist in the game. So long as his lanes aren't collapsing, I think you can expect this man to be a pretty huge factor if Rate want to win this game.
100%.
Don Jake. Yeah.
And for me, that kind of, I really like that comparison. You talk about Julbu, why he has that kind of cerebral understanding is a word I've used previously. This is a guy who's won the Baltic Masters previously, went and played in the PG Nats. Although that split didn't go that well, he's kind of taken a bit of a step down in terms of playing Division 2. So I think it's kind of a confusing element to this team. You think, why is this guy able to do that? He's Div 2. He does have that pedigree previously. I think another comparison I want to bring out that really enables the jungle is the mid lane matchup. Slowq is a player I like to hype up a lot. I think was very impressive when he played back on Riddle in NLC. You compare him as a player though, and it's a thing that we brought up in the before we went on, is Slowq as a player very much a melee champion player. He likes to play his Akalis, his Yones, these kind of champions. Very proficient on those. I look at a player like E-Roll, who's constantly discussed as like top 2, top 1 with Ruller from natives as mid laners in the NLC Div 2. He's a control mage player. He loves his Cassios, his Orianas, stuff like this. I think there's a real stylistic matchup in terms of what style of player there are there in mid and jungle. You've got a 2v2 that has a very, very disparate identity in terms of these two teams.
So in reality, what I'm getting is the second cities of the day may be one-sided, but this one is really fair for both teams. So for Raid in X7, even though X7 they have Viking and all that, Raid can take it away. So if there's a way to get into the mind of Viking, which probably is a shot caller right now of the team and brings that experience you were talking about, veteran, that could be one of the key components to get the victory for Raid. Is that what you guys think about?
I mean, I think if I'm in the mind of Viking right now, I'm wondering how Slowq and KT are going to be dealing with their lanes, because we did see a lot of heavy priority coming out of bot and coming out of mid. And what these guys love to do is that if you're ever pushed up, if you're ever out of position for a single second, they all in you. Don Jake correctly brought up Slowq. We think about the Yasuo, we think about the Akali, but KT, this guy's Kalista has been an insta ban for everyone throughout the tournament.
The best Kalista in the world.
Yes, and outside of that, what's he bringing out? He's bringing out the Samira, right? He's bringing out the Kai'Sa. He's bringing out the big bull champions, right? This guy
apart from
wants
Viper
to kill you, wants to get you the moment that you are out of position for even a single second. You got montage players in your mid and bot lane, right? And sure, you can get priority all you like, but if you're against that kind of all-in pressure, it can get very difficult to maintain that. And if you can't maintain that, your jungler can't necessarily do these small niche invades that could punish Viking Anton in the long run. Jules looking for death by 1,000 cuts against Viking Anton, but he might not even get the knife anywhere near him if his lane has collapsed to Slowq and KT.
So there's a lot of question marks for this series. Tell me before we jump forward, Don Jake, tell me.
I just think that's a really good way to characterize this. I think the ability for kind of Viking to avoid these plays. I just wanted to bring up top lane as well. In terms of, for me, the top lane here is a real stylistic change here from initially they had Curl. Curl, I think, has gone to the Red Bull solo queue competition in New York at the moment. So swimming with this new guy, John Arnow. It's a different style for him. I think Curl is a very kind of a player that plays with full maximum machismo, ego, will skill check you, stat check you, be very up in your face. Whereas John Arnow is very, sack a wave, play for team, roam. We saw him roaming on Malphite at level 5 to play for these invades. And I think with a team that has so many individuals, this actually stylistically actually bears more of a kind of advantage for them. I feel like they can kind of slow down the tempo of the game a bit more with the fact that they're not constantly looking for an advantage in the top side now. You'll see a lot more tanks from him, I think.
Okay, it seems it's going to be a fair series, but before we move on to the series itself, the Champion Select is almost upon us. We have an interview with Raid itself to understand their thoughts about Aurora Open and how they're going to tackle this matchup. Take a look.
So I think we had one of the easiest group with AB and ESP. And I think the groups went just as we thought. Riddle as first, us as second, and ESP as a third place, and AAB went. Yeah, they lost all their games. So I think it was exactly what I thought it would be. Our top side, mid, jungle, and top is from Summer Split. Basically, we released everyone, and since they were locked to NLC, they couldn't join another ERL for Iberian Cup, etc. So we want to release all of you contract-wise, but if you want to play, you can play, of course. And then we got Sin back, who was a starting AD carry in Summer Split, and then he brought in his friend Jamsu as a support. can start from the top. We got Curl. He's in New York right now. He just got a third place in the Red Bull Solo Queue 1v1 World Cup. I mean, yeah, he's a strong side top laner. We got Julebo, Mr. Power Farming jungler, and Erol in the mid lane. I don't know, just go watch him play. Incredible mid lane. We have Sin, who apparently doesn't play solo queue at all, but still managed to win his bot lane. And then Jamsu, who trolls in all games. I don't see how. Basically, you have KT. Like, KT is a Kalista one trick. So there's a story with KT. When the clock hits 1 a.m., you ban Kalista and solo queue, and he will go back to bed. So basically, we're just gonna ban Kalista, you know? And he's pretty doomed. We got Isaac Gale top lane, Mr. Rengar, aka Camille player, banning his champs. We saw that in the first split. He's kind of... He doesn't really know what to do if you ban his champs. The guy I'm most afraid of is Viking, though. He's really good. I think that's it. I'm looking forward to seeing the slow queue versus Erol mid lane matchup, though. I don't think you should fear X7, you should just fear Viking, to be honest. I mean, he's the game changer for them right now. I mean, the standard answer would be Torek, right? Since everyone's a fan of Torek. But I actually like to play Astralis because of Vendetto. And he's an amazing coach. See what he did? See what he did with Astralis? He turned like the losing streak. He turned it completely around, so they made playoffs. Good luck, boys. Hydra, please set a better roster next time for winter. We need that for X7.
That's a lovely way to look into this. As we jump straight into the champion select, I would just like to tackle on one sentence. You don't need to fear X7, we need to fear Viking. That says a lot about how they're looking into this matchup. They said they were going to ban the Kalista to begin with, Camille as well, Caitlyn is over there as well, taking away a little bit of the power from the bot lane for both sides should be interesting. What else are we expecting? Because Maokai is still available, and my man, the Darkened Blade, is still available for top lane.
So this is actually... Sorry.
Go on.
I was going to say, because it's one of the things I was characterizing is he's kind of a tank player. I don't expect them to have that much priority towards a champion like Aatrox, surprisingly. So I wouldn't actually be surprised if they ban it on the blue side. And that's what they've done.
Yep. I would expect, looking at the Camille ban, that we're thinking more about Gangplank priorities for Rate. That is something that they have played before to try to get that priority for Julbu. Or they could be looking to save him with something like Malphite, but that would have to come out later, right? And Malphite could be a priority pick for them against the champ pool Slowq and KT have. Though, like you see, the Kalista ban immediately comes out against the KT. But say that you see like a Yasuo-Samira combo, Malphite gets much higher prio, but we're looking at that as more 4th-5th picks, not first. The Azir comes out. Like Don Jake was saying, right, there's a very big stylistic difference in the mid lane here. This is one of the best mages in the game currently. Rune setups almost any matchup, and he must know the champ Slowq plays against and must be very confident about going into it. A Kali would be the thing that I'd be worried about right now if I'm a Role, but I assume there's a plan here.
It's interesting because they left Maokai, by the way, Don Jake, because they know Viking is not going to play it. So there you go. That Kali's locked in. They don't care, yeah.
Yep, I mean, the Akali matchup into Azir, it's a classic one. Obviously, the first 5 levels hurt, but on level 6, you have R for E, R1, R2 for R, so you then have an additional E left or an additional R2. You have some way of bursting Azir. Azir has no real ways to get away from you without Flash, and with Flash Burn, your cooldowns obviously come up a lot faster than his, and you can flash to flash that as well, so very difficult for Azir to get away from Akali if he mispositions, which is characteristic of all sorts of Slowq stuff, and you were talking about the Maokai, it's being locked in.
One of the other things as well we talked about was this Varus champion, Sivir as well. These are all the champions that Sin likes to play. And one of the main reasons is they'd like to get priority. So I guess one of my questions to you, Veteran, in terms of that Sivir versus MF matchup, is this something that Sivir can kind of abuse that kind of wave priority on towards?
Until level 5, it's actually very difficult. On level 5, it becomes very simple for Sivir to get that priority with her W and 2 Qs. But before that point, she goes fairly fast as she tries to expunge everything on it. So we're potentially looking at a third wave crash, but that would require them to get a stronger support matchup. But therefore, they need X7 to be willing to do support as their next pick. If they don't, you could end up with a poor matchup on bot lane for Rate, and we could actually see Rate pivoting into a late game teamfight composition with what we see here. And that would be new from them, but that's the thing about Rate's drafts, right? They seem to be doing something new almost every other game. There's almost no consistency except from that mid lane. So it would be interesting to see. I like the Jarvan pick now in the context of the Sivir. She can't spell shield the terrain that he throws around, and it sets up very nicely for the burst from the Akali and from the MF.
So far, the focus is taking away power from ICKL. On the other side, taking away those supports for... Oh, I was expecting the Blitzcrank to join for Jumpsuit, but apparently he's going to be removed. On the other side should be another top laner to just seal the deal. And it seems like with those bans, they could go for that support. But then, as you said, it's going to make it weird to get for the...
It's good for Rate.
It is. For them, it's good, not for X7. I was looking at X7. It's
Yeah.
not really good if they're forced to pick that support. Last ban for the top lane, or maybe something new. It's going to be the Yone taking away that power because they're still flexing that Maokai.
I'd also be thinking about Trundle for Julbu here. Trundle for Julbu here could be a pretty big matchup, especially if last pick is to go something a bit more tank-like, or you just force the enemy to be very squishy against a very heavy crit Sivir later on in the game, and the potential pick comp coming out of the Maokai here. I'd expect Trundle to be the pick.
Is there an opening to pivot into this sort of Udyr Grave style that we like to see a lot from Julbu here? Because I know that's another way he likes to play. You've almost got that binary nature of him. He either plays the Trundle, the Java and stuff like this and invades a lot, or he goes into that full clear mode. Are you saying for this composition you'd much rather him something unlike the Trundle?
I think given that you have the Renata there, I think I would favor the Udyr as well here. It could be very good control, but the Seraphine is a champion that a lot of people were talking about towards the start of this split as being a potential triple flex. It has a lot of power now. We see Ray are going almost all in on this late game team fighting, and honestly, this is a good setup for an Udyr, for a farming jungler type, or for the Hecarim with the Sivir, with the Seraphine combo. We've seen Hecarim comboed with Seraphine on, for example, Mad Lions in their recent Worlds run, and we've seen Hecarim comboed with Sivir basically since time immemorial, the additional move speed boost giving him more damage overall, and this is a stellar Julbu pick, and it also gives him a lot more leeway on the timings that he wants to invade. Viking, obviously, he can get out on the map early. That's what he's going to be looking to do with this. The final pick will be Mordekaiser. Decent pick into these tank champions like Maokai, but ultimately Jornanu, he's looking to play back, he's looking to give up some economy, he's looking to enable the picks, because if we look here, there's one man that this composition's built for. It is that man on the Hecarim, it is Julbu himself. It'll be really interesting to see how he does with it.
Okay, we got the champions, you got the compositions. Really interesting for Raid. They want that massive wombo combo on the later part of the game. On the other side, it seems they can be more flexible, which leads me to the question, Don, Jake, and Veteran. I'm going to start with you, Don, Jake. I need predictions. I need to know who's going to take this one. So far, Veteran, before I toss it to you, remind yourself you're 100% correct on you, Master. So if you fail this one...
It's true.
Okay, Don, Jake, tell me.
I think this is really, I think they've drafted in a way that we sort of set it up here in terms of narrative-wise. You've got a team that really wants to play for these specific conditions versus a team in X7 that will not allow you to reach the finish line of those conditions, will overpower you in the lanes. I think if I look at those specific matchups, I look at the Akali versus the Azir, I think a neutral state can be created there, but I feel like a Mordekaiser into a lot of champions like the Maokai, Malphite, you have a great time of it with a Jarvan as well. I feel like X7 might just be able to kind of power through this early game and make it hard for Rate to get to this late game.
Okay, you got the X7 on Don, Jake. Veteran, before we toss to the casters, who do you think is going to take it?
I mean, you miss position on 6 against Akali, against the MF Renata, things can go very badly, but you have the Seraphine, you have a lot of tankiness later on. I'm going to have to give the series is gonna go X7's way, in my opinion, no matter
Okay.
what. But I can see the world where Rate prove us all wrong and win, right?
Ooh,
I see it as well.
interesting. So let's toss it to the castle right now. It's going to be J Real with Kineta. So best of luck on this interesting one.
J Real, J Real.
Thank you very much to the desk. We are back once again. Round of 16, X7 taking on Ray Chimera. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm excited. Obviously, as a previous M&M player myself against 6-7, they took us down and are now moving on to that next stage. So I'm really excited to see how they do. The draft is a bit different to what we saw before. They've gone for, well, similar to the MF Renata, but Isagale on top with the Mordekaiser, I think, is a bit of a curveball here. You saw him a lot of times on the Camille's, but this time he has gone for that more weak side. So we'll have to see how that one goes. Very excited, though.
No, indeed. We'll have to have a look. Obviously, the desk really talking about Viking and a lot about slow Q. Obviously, that mid jungle going to be a big one for us to keep our eyes on. You yourself played against slow Q. How are you kind of feeling about this Akali pick? Is it something that you think is really going to fit their style and that Azir could be in trouble?
Yeah, I think Slowq is really efficient on these melee style champions. You know, you have his Silas, you have his Akali, and I think Akali is a really great matchup into the Azir. It's one of the champions where you might not have a lot of the early game strengths in terms of prio, etc. But as soon as you do get through those early levels, which is hard for Azir to bully because you're playing often into D shield, second wind. If you can get through that through to the 6 and you play around the skirmish potential, then that's really where you're going to start seeing it pop off. And Slowq, obviously a great player, so I'm expecting a lot of big things from him.
Yeah, indeed. We'll have to see how this one goes. Obviously, the bot lane as well kind of mentioned a little bit about Katie and Tabby. Now, they're on some comfort, right? They're on Misfortune Renata, which is their most played picks. 4 times for the Misfortune, 3 times for the Renata. It is a lot of comfort for them in game 1. Obviously, you yourself are a player. Is comfort really that kind of edge giver for your team? Or actually, it's game 1 where you should maybe experiment a bit?
Well, I think it depends from team to team, but as a lot of these people are kind of new to comp scene, KT, a big Kalista player in solo queue, but now coming towards competitive experience. I think 4 times on the MF. I think if you want to play something that's comfort, especially if you're a new time comp experience person, I think it's a really great thing to do. A lot of times you see people opting in for those worlds comps that you see, like copying their favorite team, Madline, etc. But a lot of time you're just going things which aren't as comfortable, something you've not really practiced as much. And yeah, I believe comfort is a really great strat to go for.
Well, here we go into game 1. We'll see if it pays off for them or if it does not. Game 1 going underway. We saw the desks talking a lot about how, X7 maybe not having the best draft in this one, giving a lot of pressure over to Ray with that pickup from the Hecarim, and obviously Jorbu was someone they talked about a lot on that desk, the man of the match potentially.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the early game is really explosive for specifically Viking overall. I think you have a lot of lanes that you can play around. It's ideally you want to leave this top lane isolated as much as you can. You've got your Mordekaiser against Maokai, not too much going on there. Isagale is just going to be able to probably play for himself, and if Viking can play towards his bot side, really impact this Sivir Seraphine lane, which is a big catalyst for the team. Sivir, Seraphine, Hecarim, they all want to go in together. You've got your ults, which are great follow-up for the Hecarim engage, so if you can actually set them behind and play around maybe get MF ahead, then you're looking for a great point to start the game off. So Viking, he is in fact looking to path towards top. I'm interested to see if he's doing a reverse clear or not. Both Rate, mid and bot will have prio, so maybe they were looking for invading the bot side, so I'm hoping to see if I can come back down towards the bot side and impact that.
Yeah, and Jobu starting on that top side, also going onto the bot lane themselves. One interesting thing that the desk kind of brought up a lot in the pre-game was kind of about the invading, about the cross-mapping from Julbu, and I feel like Hecarim is kind of that champion that you'd want to do it on, specializing in clearing super fast, but also has some pretty powerful ganks in itself. It's definitely one to be scared about, but if we look at the bot lane as well, as there is some trading in the mid lane, Sin on that Sivir, Jamsu on the Seraphine, a lot of comfort for them. It also gives them a lot of team fight potential with that Maokai as well.
Yeah, and interesting here is you see level 1 wards. You had Viking actually covering his top side. Obviously they've clearly done a bit of scalping. Know that Jobu is a big fan of the early invades, so he just wards his top side and paths bot to top and kind of leaves no room for any invades or anything early for him. But on the opposite side of that, Jobu is very happy to just be full clearing here. Rate's comp is something that really spikes as soon as you get to the 2 items or so. This big wombo combo, go forward with Eero kind of in the back, just pinging off DPS left, right, and center. So early game, you'll be really happy if you're on the side of Rate, just keeping this slow. But you can see actually Viking decided to do his bot side and stop, skipping his Krugs here and pathing down towards that bot crab. So we'll see if there'll be some impact down here, as actually both bot and mid are slowly getting pushed in.
Yeah, potentially going to see the meeting of the junglers around the Scuttle Crab. Going to get the knock up there, trying to take this one away. But there is the first fight of the game. Viking going pretty low here. A lot of damage from Julbu, and they talk about it on the desk. There's the punish. Julbu with the first blood.
Yeah, and honestly, a bit of a disaster. I think Jarvan is kind of your early game agency, the only agency you have in the early game, and Viking kind of just EQing in without any respect to where Jobu can be. Even though Jobu did do an extra camp on him, he was still on crab on spawn, and just a little bit miscalculation from Viking there. You saw some of these early game issues in his group stage where he would maybe be going down early, losing a few camps and silly mistakes, and it's kind of another one's ended up here. So bit of recovery is going to have to happen here. We'll be pathing towards that bot side again, picking up his Krugs camp here, but you can already see the lead that's happened from Jobu here. You know, picked up his boots and longsword as opposed to just 2 longswords inside the Viking. So bit of a rough early start for Viking.
You know, we did see that they scrying out and saw Julbu there with that vision plant, so they are going to know that he is on the top side. They know the Gromp is going to be coming up next. They have the ward there as well, so they will be able to track him a little bit better. But right now, Viking is down 2 camps already because he lost both of those Scuttle Crabs. It is going to be about 3 when the Gromp is taken, and this is potentially a lot for the tempo, right? We talked about how Rate likes to have a pretty quick tempo in this game. They've finished most of their games pre-28 minutes, so they're one to really go for the early plays, play aggressively, get those leads, and then turn those into quick wins.
Yeah, and you can see in mid lane here, Eero actually managed to get his first base off without TP, so he's managed to get an item buy here, but Slowq will recall now. We'll be able to save that TP and hopefully just trade no TP, and come back on even items. And here Eero, he can build up a slow push if he wants and start even enabling Jobu to get even further ahead if they want to start looking for invade, maybe in the Raptors camp when it respawns on top side. We spoke on the desk a lot about the fact that Jobu did like to invade for them, even showed a clip of him and Poppy doing it, and I think that's what separates maybe the lesser good teams to the good Div 1 teams here, is teams that can play with their prio correctly and play for these camps and play on timers. Raptors does spawn now, no one going towards him just now. It does look like a bit of a bot play. Viking just covering his bot lane here, maybe looking for something.
Yeah, come on for bot lane. Looking for the play there, Viking. Not going to go for the gang there. Sin was walking up, decides against it. Will walk away. It's back in the top side. Just farming occurring. Nothing crazy, nothing special. As Julbu searching around. Viking, I don't know if he's like potentially looking for a gank here. Surely he doesn't try and 1v1 the heck of it.
Yeah, a bit of a rough one here. They do actually meet in the river.
He is going to try and fight him. Yes, Slowq is moving down first, but the bot lane doesn't have prio, and he's going to be pushed towards it. Jamsu moving up here, going to force Viking's flash, and I have to ask, like, I don't really know what he was thinking there. He's down a level. His teammates aren't necessarily going to have the rotation first, and he's losing another trade.
Yeah, and this is the issue with the draft that X7 have here. You've got a very, very greedy, you've got a very unfortunate comp where you don't actually have any prios in the early game. A really smart Seraphine pick into the side of Renata, which is giving you the prio in the bot side here. And it's just hard for Viking here. You go for the crab on bot side early because your Maokai is getting shoved in, but on the opposite side, your bot's getting shoved in and your mid's getting shoved in. So he's just kind of taking his chances that he can take these, and then again in River, trying to fish for something to get him into the game or looking for any leads he can create, and it's just backfiring again, having to burn the flash. And you're already seeing a 500 gold deficit for the side of X7 here. So we'll just have to see where Viking can pick back up on. Does in the mid side here though, pretty even CS for the side of Slowq against Eero. Veteran was talking about on the desk the fact that this is kind of where the Akali does start having a bit more agency, a bit kill pressure in the mid lane. Hasn't gone back to base yet, so hopefully in that first base you'll start seeing items come in and maybe some skirmishing potential around there.
Yeah, now it doesn't feel good for the Jarvan right now, but so far, obviously, the game is still pretty close. Nothing major has gone down. About 500 gold separates the two teams. No one is crying right now about potentially losing their game, you know, but if we do look at kind of how Rate has played previously, right, they've gone for a very aggressive early game. They've built those leads. They've then gone for the team fights, looked for those objectives, and kind of taken the snowball there and won the game pretty quickly. Is this kind of the style that you want to see them play from now on, considering that they are starting to build those leads with Julbu? Or is it actually a team comp where they can kind of wait back, chill a little bit more, and actually just keep that pressure rolling on throughout the stages of the game?
You should be pretty happy with how the game's going so far, Rate. I don't think you want to push your advantage too hard. Your mid-game 2-item, 3-item spike is so strong if you're grouped as 5 here, and I do still think that even though you're slightly down in the early game and X7 haven't actually managed to build a lead at all with their comp, you do need to be careful for these level 6s. You have your Jarvan ult coming on top of MF, with even the Renata ult to disengage the Hecarim. If you do misstep on the side of Rate here, you can for sure lose these fights. And you can see here, it does look like X7 do want to give this Herald up. You've got your 2 in the bot side, but as I say that, they are rotating up, but they're going to be extremely late here from a good lane swap from Rate. So they're going to create numbers advantage here. Their X7's bot lane is going to be extremely late here, and it looks like they're just going to give up the Herald, as I say.
Steal, maybe. Steal, he gets
my
it.
God.
That's going to be the pick up there for Viking, and Jewel. We're going to have to run away, but maybe going to come back. Actually, Cataclysm is dodged, and it's now a 4v2. Slow Q is trying to help out, but his jungler is gone. Icegale is going to join the fight, but here's bot lane as well, as you said. Tabby moving up with KT. Can they change the stance of this fight? Jewel still in the mix, just so much healing, but they're going to lose the Azir already on the side. KT now getting caught out by the Maokai, but going to be able to stay alive, as now it's actually John Arnu who's in the middle of 4, trying to pick up 1 for his inevitable death, but he will go down. And what looked like a really good play for Ray ended up going X7's way.
Yeah, and it's absolute disaster for the side of Rate there. They thought they had it secured, the Herald, and you could see them going back towards their lanes, not once dropping his CS, but Viking just comes in here with an absolutely clutch steal on the smite, and Slowq, an absolute MVP in this fight, he bought so much time there on the side of his stealth, allowing the bot lane of X7 to come up there and actually secure the fight there in the end.
Yeah, and if we do go to that replay, as we see the smite steal, and then break it down, Chimera. What goes wrong for the side of Rate?
I mean, they managed to pick up at Viking at the start, which is great, but as you saw before, X7's bot lane was moving up the whole time, and I feel like they just lost track of that. You had Maokai moving back to the mid lane here, Slowq buying so much time there, completely marking Eero, and that just allows X7's bot lane to come in here and clean up the fight, really. You had Icegale with the Maokai ult, the Mordekaiser ult, just isolating himself there in the realm, and it just allowed them to clean up this fight. It's just an absolute wipe for the side of X7.
Yeah, Realm of Death taking out Jewel, a smart play, the player that we've been talking about so much for Rate Gaming, obviously being taken out of the fight, is a big problem. You know, you can't kill off that misfortune, you can't help out your mid laner of Errol, who was having problems against Slowq, so a nice play there from Icegale. We'll see if that persists throughout the rest of the plays. I was initially going to say, though, would it have maybe been a better move for X7 to get the Drake? But obviously, since they got the Smite steal, it does seem to work out for them. Now they're going to go for the Drake, and they're going to take both early objectives early on, setting themselves up from what wasn't the best start to the game.
Yeah, usually you see when you have your bot lane down in that position when Herald's already started is you do look for the cross map. But X7 obviously decided, you know what, we trust in Viking, he's Smite King apparently, we're going to steal it and then fight after. So completely salvaged the early game deficit that they had and the early game issues, and now you're actually looking at a 600 gold lead on the side of X7. So the issues that we had in the early game, you know, Viking going down, not having prior lanes, completely turned around in its head here. We've now got kill up on Slowq. He's coming close to the probably proto belt, I think he'd be going towards, and your bot laner even start to get accelerate as a little skirmish in the mid lane.
Talking about close to Jobu, who is doing a lot of damage. Slowq needs to try and get away, but it's actually just gonna walk out, and I'm a little bit surprised that you wouldn't go for any more. Maybe you're scared that people are going to start rotating up from the top, but on the bot lane, they've dropped the Herald, they're looking for the plates, they're going to get 4 plates off this tower onto KT. That is absolutely huge amounts of gold.
Yeah, and Rate kind of dropping the ball there. I feel like they weren't quite paying attention to the map, maybe a little bit of nerves there, as you could see that Viking and KT were both on the bot side of the Herald, so bit of a question mark, not going for the kill on Slowq there, and they dropped the 4 plates, like you said, as a little Viking does a little cheeky pick in the mid lane. He's Euros ult. But yeah, plates down on the bot lane, that tower 1 hit away, so I'd really like to see Viking, if he's looking for his reset, open back towards bot lane, just finish off the tower, take the plates, and then swap in towards top side, see if you can get any more plates on the side of KT here, who's going to be an absolute monster. Already got the Kraken in the base here and coming out of the map.
Yeah, indeed, and right now X7 have righted their wrongs of the earliest game, and they've now actually started to build a lead, as you said a little bit earlier on. You said when they get to the level 6, they become dominant, but does that dominant window expire at some point? Are they needing to really gain control over this? You said Rate can chill, they have a good scaling, they have a really strong 2-3. Is that matched by X7, or are they going to basically be relying on the good team fights?
I think you're still scaling, like it's always to an extent. You've still got some great tools on the side of X7. As I say that, small skirmish, flash down on Tabby, but you still have these strong points in the game. You know, it's really hard for Rate to lock down slow queue in these team fights. There's not a lot of hard CC aside from Maokai maybe looking to root up him, but even then you've got your stealth. So if you can let slow queue run havoc in these fights, looking on Eero as Jobu does dive in towards the back line, then you can for sure win fights here. It's just more, Rate's comp is much more of a, we group as a death ball comp, we don't split up from each other and we'll win. And X7's side of it is we want to isolate as many of Rate's players as possible. With your Mordekaiser Death Realm, you've got your Jarvan locking up carry, and Slowq with his stealth and all the mobility he has. You can already see the damage coming down in the mid lane.
Damn, 5-point strike there from Slowq, doing a lot of damage to Eero. Needs to be really careful there, needs to move back away. As we are seeing on that bot side, pings going down. Maybe they're going to look for the first brick here. Misfortune going to be able to pick this one up. KT takes that one for himself, so a bit of extra gold going on to X7, and they are now starting to open up the map. Where do you expect them to kind of rotate players? Are we going to now see KT Tabby go to that mid lane, maybe throw Slowq onto a side lane? Because I will say, Rate really good at team fighting, but we haven't really seen him tested against maybe some split push strategies.
I think even though you do have the KT on 1.5 items here, you are still playing into Azir. So if they do want to play 4 towers at this point, I would expect them to go into the top side. But with that Drake spawning in the next minute, I think they don't want to give over any Drakes to the side of Rate. But
there you go, Eero is gone.
Yeah, and
Eero is gone. Julbu trying to get some sort of play back, but Slowq very slippery, able to keep distance, and Renata there as well, going to make it very difficult. Julbu going to have to just ult away there, and now they can get some pressure onto this tower. I think, although saying that, they're actually going to go for the dive. I thought they were just going to go for the plate, or sorry, the tower damage, but instead they go push Julbu away, and now they get more time on this tier 1 mid.
I was originally going to say, even though Eero did go down there, it's not the end of the world. You are burning Jarvan ult, but as soon as Jobu goes in there and he has to burn his ult, you do have Drake coming up in 40 seconds, and there's no way you can fight as a Hecarim without your ult here if you want to get onto the backline. So I'm expecting them to maybe give it up, as they in fact do go for the Herald now. So this is the opportunity for Rate if they want to pick up one of those Drakes and kind of stop the Drake stacking at least on the side of X7 to go into the bot side, pick that up, secure some deep vision. But unfortunately, Jamsu not actually got any wards yet. He does need to go back to base, so if they do want to pick up that Drake, that's great, but they don't actually have any opportunity for deep vision. As you can see, they are going back to the base here, and yeah, X7 just kind of taking everything just now. They get the kill in the mid lane, they get your Jobu's ult down, and they get the Herald, and now they do even looking to go back into the bot side here and start pinging out the Drake here.
Yeah, Casey, they're rotating up to the mid to cover that wave. As you said, they've got the second Rift Herald as well, so potentially could look to open up the map a lot if they drop it into the mid lane. They might even use it to get some prior over Drake, but so far it does feel like they have all of the control. As you said, vision not particularly high for either side, but they also just have all of that power. You know, the Akali in that bot side, they've got the Sivir in the top side for Rate. This dragon should easily be X7's.
Yeah, and I do think Rate are slightly dropping the ball there. I know as much as you want to scale here and not fighting to X7, Icy Gale is running Ignite in the top side, and you could see he was hitting down on that top tower as Drake was spawning and Rate were in bot side. And instead of playing with their TP advantage, they have decided, you know what, it's fine guys, we scale, let's not, you know, throw the game here on potentially a Drake or even a 5v4 situation and go into the top side here. So Viking dropping Herald down, taking this mid tower will open up the map, allow you to secure a lot deeper vision, a lot more safe by pushing a mid wave in and taking that down. So yeah, across the board here, just a gold lead growing heavily into X7's favor here. 4k gold lead, 2 Drakes, you've got two items on the side of Icy Gale now, who's going to be an absolute monster on this side lane. I don't know who can even take him down.
Yeah, and the build is maybe a little bit different. You know, obviously Riftmaker a common one for Mordekaiser. How are you liking the tank build?
I think it's really smart itemization. I think if you look at the side of Rate's comp, while the Mordekaiser pick in itself is already really great, into these kind of death ball comps that want to stick together, is Slowq maybe fancying his chances here against the Maokai. Nothing happening, but Mordekaiser already...
now doesn't care. Slowq, you're doing damage against Azir. You're not doing nothing to the tree. The tree is solid. He is rooted in this game. He's not going nowhere.
Maybe he's going for round 2 here. Yeah, try to chop down the tree once, but no, it's got a backup coming for Jobu here. The ward was in the bush.
Oh, this could be a rough play indeed. Slowq locked down. There's the charge. Hecarim coming through. Julbu gonna pick up that one nice and easy. Viking maybe looking to actually turn this one around. Goes with the catch, and a lot of damage goes down. But the time over the top was used, but it's not going to connect on to John Arnow, who now is bringing this one back. Going to throw down hands. Viking almost going down, but not going to go away. And it is going to be a 0 for 0 after all of that play.
Yeah, and actually right here coming up with a fantastic play here. You saw X7 actually had the prio in the mid lane there and did have numbers coming down first, but they recognized it was a quick play here. We have time to take out Slowq here and actually get out with the backup of the the mid-end support coming in after. So really great pickup, really great heads-up play here to get themselves back into the game. But going back into the Mordekaiser pick, item-wise, I really like it a lot. I think your champ already excels into enemy comp that want to play deathball, want to play together, and isolating members out by themselves with the is great, but the items that you have now, no one can kill him in the 1v1. He can choose to ult anyone he wants. He's so tanky, and the Nashor's bringing in that extra AP damage and attack speed just allows you to win these 1v1s against anyone. So it's going to be really difficult for Rate, especially these carries here, to play against Isagale until they get to maybe these 3 items where they can win the 1v1. So really happy to see this item build from Isagale, and we'll see how probably the next team fight will be coming around the next Drake. I don't think, well, Rate really want to opt into anything until then. They just want to scale up, get those 2 items, and then start taking the fights.
You will see if they can maybe find a pick or 2 here and there. Right now, though, all the kills on to Julbu as we go through maybe some of the stats. Another 4k gold lead over to X7. They've taken all 3 outer towers really in control. And I will say from Rate, when they were winning games in their group stage, they were getting those leads, getting that monetary lead, getting that kill lead. They were just able to group up, be a wrecking ball. But now, when we saw them play against the side of Riddle, they weren't able to build that gold lead. They got a little bit behind, and they really did struggle to kind of implement their way to play on the map, which is normally through grouping up. And obviously, we're seeing the same again here. How can they adjust their playstyle to try and weather this storm of X7 and get into those 2-3 item power spikes?
So one thing you see a lot from X7, even in the group stages, is they do like to play on 3 lanes, as Viking does go in here.
Ooh, Charm going to come down. Encore is over the top, stops the bullet time, but now Hecarim going to be jumping in. Viking is going to be able to get away, and on the back, Slowq picking up the kill. Hecarim trying to go in, but gets taken down himself. John are now going to be the next target as well. X7 just executing Rate Gaming once again. Yes, the tree is going to live for a little bit longer, but goodbye to the Maokai.
Yeah, and you could see there, that the point I was going to make is you could see X7, they actually play a lot on 3 lanes overall. You can see Isagale and Slowq both pushing in top and bot at the same time, while X7 do contest his mid lane. And the way to play against this is just, if you're the side of Rate, is opening into 2 lanes, or even just 1 lane and contesting the mid wave while they do this. But they came in too late. X7, they'd already taken the mid wave prio, and then Rate wanted to contest them. And by that time, that's when Slowq had already pushed in bot wave, rotated up, and even though originally you are putting yourself in a 4v3 situation or even a 5v4 situation, it doesn't matter if you've waited until the wave is gone, and then they jump into the fight. Slowq comes up there, and Isagale comes in after, and yeah, they just absolutely wipe the fight.
Yeah, indeed they do. And we get to watch it one more time, because it was that good. So, Chimera, like, break it down. What did X7 do that just won them so hard?
I mean, Viking, just absolute hero here, already getting onto 2 of the back carries. Seraphine, not quite a carry, but an enabler, which is just as important. And like I said, Slowq, if you look into the bot wave here, they pushed it already in. Slowq decided to rotate up after that, and that's when Rate decided that's where they wanted to pressure the mid lane and start looking for this picks here. And as much as John Anu decided to, well, tank as much as he could there, it just didn't matter in the end. He's just too far behind. You can see 7k gold lead on the side of X7 there. Baron picked up 3 breaks, stacked into the side of Rate comp here. So if they're not looking to end the game here, this Ocean so that they can get pick up in the next 5 minutes is absolutely phenomenal into the Rate's comp here. So I'm looking, this is probably looking like an X7 win, unless Rate can pull something out the bag here, maybe pick up some of these shutdowns that are across the board, or trade for these towers on the top side.
Yeah, the gold is just different in this game. Right now, building an 8k gold lead. Tier 2s are going to start going down, and they are going to be giving up a lot of money here. Rate needs to try and stop the bleeding, but it is pretty difficult. It feels like they're hemorrhaging, as right now Viking is going to go in once again, but the Maokai is very tanky underneath this tower. Tower has gone down, though, so we'll buy a bit more time as Julbu in the back. Viking will fold, almost was able to live, but will not go so. Requiem will fall down, though, and Isagale in the middle of this fight in the death threat. himself, just scrapping it out. Now going to come out of there, but Sin able to get a lot of damage down. They don't kill the Maokai, and it could be Ray to step forward here. But KT with the damage, bang, bang, you are gone. Goodbye to Rates Gaming's chances of this game. They're going to take an in-hit, and they're probably going to look to take more towers.
Yeah, that's not the end of the game, which is the main thing for the side of Rate. They did actually manage to pick up the shutdown tower bounty go on top side and get 2 kills there. I don't know if Viking has shut down there, but Icegill for sure had a shutdown. So you're actually not too disappointed with the end result here. You are given the bot inhib, which does suck for the next Nash that does come up, but that's still 3-4 minutes away here. You've got the gold on the top side. Hecarim is now, well, Jobu is now on 2 items there. You've got Eero on 2 items, and even your Sign and the Sivir here has got 2 items. So, not the end of the world. I think if you're on the side of Rate here, you just want to maybe, if you can try and get 3 items or even 2.5 before this next Drake, that's when you want to pull the trigger here. But yeah, not the end of the world. Vikings just a little bit too aggressive there, not having slow Q on his back pocket there to follow up the engage.
No, indeed. But even though being too aggressive, it still paid out for them, obviously having such leads. Puts you in a very fortunate situation when it comes to team fighting. And they said, watch out for Viking. They were able to put him down in the early stages, but he has become a menace throughout this game. It is a little bit of a worrying sign, you know, right now for Ray. Like, they had such a good lead, they weren't able to keep it, but now going back into this one. Obviously, 2 minutes 50 before the next Baron, 2 minutes 30 before the next Drake. Expecting maybe a little bit of a lull phase for here as Ray actually trying to catch out Slow Q.
Yeah, they are fishing here. He doesn't have any information. Viking is too far away as well here.
Oh, Nature's Grass going to be able to rock him down. We're going to see if they can lock him up, though. Slow Q able to buy a bit of space, but there is the twisted advance. Viking, though, going to try and save the day. Big Cataclysm to buy some more time. Julbu also going pretty low himself. Going to have to use the onslaught of shadows. And there's Slow Q going low. But execution almost finished off the kill, but there's the Hextech to pick it up. And now it's X7 once again in a strong position. Viking going to go back in onto the Maokai, who will keep fighting this one out. He is very, very tanky, but he is not got anywhere to go. He is just caught between the team and the wall. He is now just surviving for the lols and basically going to go down. There is just not very much that Rake can do, and they keep trying to make these plays.
And again, Slow Q with another extreme hero play there, just buying so much time there. You saw at the Herald, the first Herald of the game there, stalling so much time for his team to come and back him up there. And once again, they couldn't quite take him down there. He got so much time with his Shroud and allowed the Viking to come in here. He even managed to take down Jobu on the back end there, over the wall, and just stall for KT and Tabby to come in here as Cleanse down for KT.
Oh, Encore going to catch up too, but they're not going to be able to follow it up. Sin tries to step forward. So much damage coming out from KT. Needs to back away. There is Julbu going forwards, but into the death realm he goes, and Icy Gale is bringing a storm. Goodbye. Jamsu going to try and run, but he gets grabbed by the Death's Hand, and the TP will make them back away. The Maokai is here to save the day, but it looks like he's not even going to be able to get to play. One more kill over to the side. Slow Q kills someone in the backline, and Eero, the last man alive, the Emperor for the team. Will he be able to save his kingdom?
And just right there, you see the power of Icicle's Mordekaiser's pick there. As soon as Jobu goes in here, he ults him out, isolates, takes him down in the realm, and almost a beautiful flank there from Jono there on the Maokai, but just gets one shot as Slow Q styles in the backline, taking down Sign, taking down Rate's hopes for game 1, and taking down the Nexus.
X7 looking sharp straight away, picking up the first game win of this series. Is it going to be a quick 2-0? The desk thought the Rate had a lot of chances to win this one, but X7 said no.
Yeah, honestly, I think that game was just over in a flash. You know, Rate were taking the early game skirmishes, they were winning, they were up and gold, just until that Herald, and then as soon as the Herald went just wrong for the side of Rate, they just snowballed. KT, an absolute monster this game. I honestly don't expect him to be getting MF anymore. That's the 5th game where he's looked fantastic on the champ. You can ban his Kalista, but I think you got to ban the MF now.
Yeah, they said that they were only really worried about Viking. Maybe that was a little bit of
a mistake, I think.
Yeah, maybe a bit of underpreparedness, because the rest of the team looking pretty good. We didn't even really get to see too much from Icy Gale, but when we did see him pop up, was being very prominent, and obviously so Slow Q has been a name that's been mentioned about so much about being impactful, and he truly was on that Akali. Kind of going from, oh, hold on, I was going to say going from that, but you know what? We're going to get the desk to break down what the teams need to do next. Over to you, Archerum.